Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Welcome to the show, y'all. Now, check this out. Now, Corey is a young man now. Young man running the streets. Now, the best example that he's had is his father. Running the streets, selling drugs. He came up in the game because he robbed somebody and got a lot of money and a lot of dope. Even when, you know what I'm saying, at the risk of putting his son in harm's way, it didn't matter. And see, all of this, listen to me now, all of this is what Corey used to process and decide what type of person that he wanted to be. He's looking at his pops, and he sees his pops as somebody that was able to do it this way. Why shouldn't he be able to do it this way? Wait a minute. He got kidnapped when he was 7. He got kidnapped when he was 7, or around 8. He had turned 8. But he was a child, right? You would think that would scare him away from the streets. But that's not what happened. And that's not what happens in most situations. See, the trauma of what he went through shut him down to feeling. It made him numb. And then the examples that he kept seeing from his father and the people around him told him that this is okay. He didn't have that other influence, or those other influences, his mother or whomever, that his grandmother, whomever, that would be able to say no, no, no. He never, ever got any help for what he went through. Never. None. After he was kidnapped, let me tell you something. After he was kidnapped and rescued by the police, he went home that night, slept in his own bed, peed in the bed, couldn't get that out of his head, but he started to hide that. He didn't want people to know he would pee in the bed at night. But he was so traumatized that he was afraid, and to make sure that he didn't have to feel that type of fear or pain again, he became the boogeyman. That's what happens, y'all. That's what happens. See, a lot of people get to talking about all of the things that they do in the streets and how they became what they became. Most people don't forget how they became the monster that they are. And then most people on the other side of it, they don't even know how you become that monster. Something happens to you. You don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go kidnap somebody. I'm going to murder somebody. You don't wake up in the morning and decide that. It happens over time. Something happens to you. Something happens to make you think that that is an option for you. So now Corey's in the streets, and he's doing some of everything. And his father is older. You would think wiser. No. His father is proud that Corey is following in his footsteps. Proud of him. I'm talking about elated that Corey is following in his footsteps. He's a gang member too. He's on the same hood that his father's on. Proud. Now let me tell you about the brother that kidnapped Corey. Don't forget, he was robbed by Corey's daddy. When he wanted his lick back, he kidnapped Corey, and then Corey's daddy called the police on him. He ended up having to plead out to 35 years. Right? Now, he's been in jail 10 of those years now, right? A little bit longer than that, actually, but we're going to say about 10 years. And he's turned his whole way of seeing the world around. He knows that he was wrong living the lifestyle he lived. He knows that he was wrong kidnapping little Corey. He knows all of this stuff was wrong, and he's come to understand why. He's come to understand why he thought that was the right way for him to go, because that's all he saw. And the people that were in his life that were telling him that this is not what you want to do, he didn't listen to them. He didn't listen to them because those voices were not as consistent and persistent as the voices that were on the other side. You understand? You got to be patient with people when you want them to listen to you. You got to talk to them. And you got to be persistent. It's got to be over and over, not to the point where you run them in the ground, but in that caring and loving way, letting them know that you are concerned. You don't call them just when they get in trouble. You call them when they're doing good, when they're doing bad, when they are up, when they're down, and say, talk to them and tell them how you feel about them. So when something is going on with them and they're going the wrong way, you can say what you need to say and they're going to respect it. But see, this brother, he didn't listen to him. And he got out there and he was all in them streets. And he figured, let me set up me a drug operation where I'm not out on the corner. They'll come to me. Come to me under the guise that I'm a music producer. Hello? And that way, I can stay under the radar from the police. Had a good plan for the police. But the streets, another story. Man, look at them robbers knew what it was. He came from that cloth. He was a robber, so he knew. He didn't plan for that, though. He didn't plan for that. So now he's sitting in prison and been there for a while, and he's well respected in the penitentiary. He's well respected by the administration. He's well respected by the inmate population. Because everybody sees this dude as a stand-up guy that's going to call it how it is, and he's going to accept responsibility because he has accepted responsibility for what he did. And he's walking them years down. He's walking them down. But check this out. Little Corey throwing rocks at the penitentiary. Throwing rocks at the penitentiary. Breaking news. Young man caught in a shootout in his own neighborhood with drugs, paraphernalia, money, and guns. They take him to jail. He's a juvenile, right? He's still a juvenile. When I say juvenile, he just turned 18, but well, he grown. Now, well, let's get to it. Because when they hit him, when he got arrested, he was an adult. So he's past 17. He's a grown man. Let's keep that straight. He's a grown man, according to the law. Even though we know that the mind doesn't mature until 25. We know that, but that's another discussion that we can have another day. So he's a grown man. They got him all on TV. They're looking at it. Everybody sees it. Now, the dope boy that's in the penitentiary for kidnapping, he sees it. Oh, man. Then he sees all the stuff that they're saying about him, all the things that he had been doing as a juvenile, and he can't help but think that he's partly to blame for that because he kidnapped that boy and traumatized that boy. He's got to be partly to blame for that. And the person that he is today, he accepts that. And he says, I wish there was something that I could do for him. But he doesn't have any money to help him get a lawyer. He doesn't have any way to contact him. So he prays for him. Because he's a believer now. He prays for him and he asks the Most High to protect him. Keep him out of harm's way. And check this out. Little Corey goes to trial, trying them folks. Know they got him dead to rights. Tried them folks. They hit him with a quarter. Hit him with a quarter. Sent him straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Guess where he ends up at? You already know. he ends up at the penitentiary that old boy's at. Yes, he does. He ends up at that penitentiary. And when he finds out about it, he goes to talk to the unit manager and everybody he can and says, look, that's my family. Now, in the penitentiary, a lot of people say that, but it's not a real relation. But we say that because we're close to people, whatever. But he was saying that because he wanted them to move that young man down to the pod, the building that he was in. So when they went to him, they went to Lil Corey. They said, do you know him? Lil Corey didn't even recognize him. He's like, no. He said, I don't know him. So they arranged for them to meet. They arranged for him to meet. And when Lil Corey saw his face, not a picture of him, but his face, it flashed back. And dude saw that look on Lil Corey's face, because that's the look he had on his face when he peed on himself. So he walked up closer to him and he put his arms around him. He said, you're going to be all right, man. I got you. You're going to be all right. And Corey looked at him and he was like rigid and he was shaking. And dude turned to the unit manager and said, man, I got it, man. You going to move him down here? The unit manager looked at Corey and Corey didn't say yes or no. He didn't know what to say. He was terrified. So the unit manager said, yeah, I got him. I'm going to move him down there. Give me a couple of days. So the unit manager left. He said, I'm going to let y'all talk. So he sat Corey down. And he told him, he said, look, man, first thing I want to do is apologize to you for what I did to you. I was wrong for what I did. I was wrong. And I accept that. And I want you to accept my apology. But if you don't, that's okay too. He said, and if you don't want to move down here, that's fine too. But he said, I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to have any problems out of anybody at this prison if I got anything to say about it. And you can trust me on that. He said, I'm going to do everything I can to let you know that I'm sorry for what I did to you. And I'm going to do that by protecting you in here. So little Corey, he looking at him. And he said, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this for me, man? And little Corey started crying. And he said, because, man, look here, what I did to you, what your daddy did to you, you didn't have a chance. You didn't have a chance. And I'm finna make up for that the only way that I can. So little Corey, he stood up. He said, man, I'm going to move down there, man. He said, they going to put me in the room with you? He said, not at first. He said, I'm going to put you in the pod and then I'll get you in the room with me. He said, okay. And Corey felt at ease, man. He felt at ease. And let me tell you why I wanted to do this episode. When I talked to the brother about this, and we got into detail about this, brother broke down and cried to me. And he told me, see, a lot of people don't pay attention to what we do to the people in our neighborhoods and cause them to follow in our footsteps. He said, it don't matter whether you kidnap somebody or you sell drugs in front of somebody's house. He said, when them kids see you, they learn from you. And even though they might be afraid, that environment caused them to do the same thing that we were doing. And he said, the only difference is that when we get older, we forget that we got traumatized just like they are being traumatized by us, and we went into it. And he said, when they get older, they're going to forget. And he said, I didn't want this young brother to forget what he went through in the sense that he didn't relate that to his behavior. I wanted him to understand why he was doing it so he could understand that he don't have to do it. He's not a slave to it. And I said, I got that. And he said, make sure when you tell this story that you say that. So I'm saying that to y'all. Don't ever think, man, that they're not watching, because kids are watching and listening to everything that we do. And we're impressing upon them the morals and the values that they're going to go with and live out the rest of their lives with. So be careful about that. Be careful about that. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.